Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So the topic, of course, is pursuit of happiness. Now we all pursue happiness in our lives. That's everybody's after something or the other that we think will make us happy. The U.S. Declaration of Independence even defines this as a basic human right, along with freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the basic rights of all human beings according to the Declaration of Independence. And in reality, we keep going after things that we think will make us happy. What we think will make us happy depends on who it is and at what time and what the context is, but it's always something that reinforces something positive for us. Starts as a little baby, the baby's hungry, it wants food, gets milk, it's happy. It's missing its mother, it'll cry, then it sees its mother, it'll be happy. But when it gets the things, after it gets the milk, after a while, it won't care that much about it. The baby gets a little older, little kids, they're looking for toys, more and newer toys, as Jesse was saying. They're looking for the latest things they see on TV, the latest character, toys related to that. But they get bored of the toys they have, they want something else. Or they'll want candy and chocolate, but again, you give them a lot of it and they get bored of it. You get older, teenagers, popularity is a big deal. You want your others around you to like you. You get a little older, then you want to be popular with the opposite sex. Love. As you get older, money becomes a big issue. Success in your career. The newer toys, bigger toys, as we said, you want the better car, the bigger house, and it never ends. You're always looking for something or the other that you think will make you happy. Okay. But what happens is we achieve some of these and we are still not happy. We are not satisfied. There's always something more. There have been many studies, and there was a recent one I posted something on CKNet where they've found that when people achieve the things that they think will make them happy, some of them are happy for a while, but within a few months you're back to the same level. You study across populations and see what people's happiness level is based on asking them suitable questionnaires, and there is variation. Some people are happy, some people are unhappy, but when they achieve what they want, they get a certain amount, then they go back to the same level. The ones who are happy, generally happier, stay a little bit happier. The ones who are generally a little bit unhappy, stay a little bit unhappy, and they kind of come back to the same level. So all the things we think will make us happy don't quite get us there. Now, if you're really deprived, then you certainly can be unhappy. Somebody who's sick will be unhappy, and it's hard for them to be happy if they have certain kinds of problems. People who are starving, who are short of money to that extent, they're going to be unhappy, and so on. But there is a certain level above which, when your basic needs are met, then beyond that, the happiness is transitory, and it doesn't last very long. And even if besides the fact that we still have this sense of emptiness, it's also that bad things will happen. Whatever happens in life, something won't go our way. All our efforts, however hard we try, some things will work, some things won't. Manas jatan karat bhav bhat, tiske kartab le jaat. So lots of things we try in our life, things don't always work out our way, right? And Guruji's happiness and suffering are a part of life, and that's what Gurbani tells you. Accept the fact that good things are going to happen and bad things are going to happen. Dukh sukh doye kapde pehre jai manukh. These are like the two garments given to us by God, and to be worn in this life. Jatan bahut sukh ke kiye dukh ko kiyo na koe, kau nanak sun re mana har bhave so hoye. So while we all striving for happiness, it's what happens is going to be according to His hukam, and we have to live in that. So life you have good things happening, you have bad things happening, ups and downs, good fortune, bad fortune, and our emotional state goes up and down like a yo-yo. One moment we are very happy, we are excited, we get something, somebody gets a promotion, he's all excited. He goes home, he has a fight with his wife, next time he's unhappy, something else happens. You have kids, you're very happy, you have wonderful kids, you have fun with them. Then one of them gets sick and then you're unhappy. Or somebody has kids and they get into some bad company, they get into drugs or something or the other, And the same thing that brought you so much happiness can in fact take you down to the depths of despair. So kabhu jeeda up chalat hai, kabhu jaye pyale. So sometimes the soul stores high in the heavens, and sometimes it falls to the depths of despair. So that is life. And we are constantly tossed around by the waves, and the Gurbani calls it a bhaujal. Our whole existence is a bhaujal. It's a stormy ocean where we are always tossed around. And one state of mind is really determined. We think of happiness and suffering as being caused by external events, and that's what we're always trying to control, trying to have good things happen to us. But actually what's far more important is our own state of mind, how we react to these things. It's how we deal with them that determines our happiness much more than what happens to us. So it's all the state of the mind, and that Shabad says, Tujhi aage sare. So we have to remember it all as His hukam and accept it, and pray to Him about it. This is intended to be more a conversation, by the way, so please feel free to give your own reaction to this. What makes you happy? What do you find as...
You had a very nice list in the beginning, on the first slide. I thought all of those things are very desirable. People, anybody would love to be wealthy. Even wealthy want to become more wealthy, and some of them end up in jail.
Right, right. A lot worse things happen. People get really rich.
I don't think the Bani probably doesn't say that these things are bad to go after.
It says that focusing on them is bad, being greedy is bad, too much desire is bad, and you have to learn contentment.
I'll just to interrupt you. One line I was singing in the morning in connection with what you're going, there is "Main kya maangu kis chirna rahai hai, Vichaar naam pyari jiyo."
Right.
So most people in the Menakat, when they come out, they say, hey, don't desire anything else, just ask for God and nothing else.
No, it says anything I ask for, it's all transitory. It will only take me so far. So the best thing to ask for, the ultimate one, is God Himself. There's something more important.
That is not an interpretation I have come from you.
Okay, now let's hear your interpretation.
No, I'm just telling you,
I want to hear your interpretation.
My interpretation is that all of those things are desirable to have, but more important is now.
That's pretty much what I said, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we are making violent agreement.
Violent agreement, yes. Yes.
Subhani Saab, there are so many references to if you live in a beautiful mansion, that's fine, you remember the grace that I gave it to you by which you got it. If you are wearing a beautiful fragrance, that's fine. Wearing riches, that's fine, So whereas Guru Nanak Saab always said that, Rakh Garibi waste, Guru Gobind Singh exemplified royalty by wearing robes and kalgi and jewels, right? So I think ultimately it comes to how attached you are to those things and how engaged you are. I think most of us do get attached, and that's
the line I quoted was,
if you follow the Guru Gobind Singh Ji's example, he wore all these things. Let me just finish.
And
then there's Machhiwada and the times when he had nothing, and he still remembered Vaheguru.
Exactly. He's happy in either state.
I was only giving you an example that we sometimes translate Gurbani in somewhat not a mindful manner. The line I said was, it didn't say anywhere that all of those things are bad.
Right,
No, we heard that, yeah.
That all of the other things are worth asking for. That is what life is.
But he also says it's transitory. Thirna rahai. They won't last forever.
It's not a high, but
They won't last forever.
The other reality is, nothing is a high.
Yeah.
Everything is temporary.
Right. So moving.
No, everything is temporary. It's not that the naam is permanent and...
No, naam does last, and everything else is transient, is kind of what he's saying. Naam itself is eternal.
No, the line as it is saying,
those are things.
Okay, let's not just get hung up on one line. Let's move on, okay?
nothing is permanent.
Sure, Ranjit, let's move on, please. Let's not just get hung up on one line or get into arguments.
There's a documentary called Happy. I'm wondering if anyone has seen it. It's really cute, and it talks about happiness, just like you started.
Happiness quotient.
It's So essentially what it says is, and I quoted them, I had a little segment at Chai with Manjuba. I started the same way as you did, and I quoted this person who made the documentary. So after going through the world, meeting all kinds of people, he lands in Kolkata. And the people that are serving others are the happiest people.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a whole slide on that.
Those who give, and really giving is the greatest joy.
It is,
When
it
you
is.
give in any form, that just makes you feel so good.
And get wealthy.
There was a study of different professions.
Yes.
Even money given to the mother.
It's whatever you can.
Seva.
Anything, any giving. When you are,
It's even when you're taking care of your grandson, when you're taking care of your grandson and helping him and teaching him, that's seva too. That's
love.
giving. You are giving something to
Giving
him,
your
right?
love.
It starts with how you treat your spouse, how you treat your co-workers. You know, but
immediate family.
it's our, yeah. Or in the, you know, in the American corporate environment, it's very competitive. Everyone's trying to be better than the other person. But instead of that, if you try to be a mentor to the others around, try to be cooperative, help everybody succeed,
Collaborate.
yeah, you will feel better yourself, and even your career will do better. If instead of trying to get something better than the other, you're trying to do things for other people. So anyway, getting to happiness itself, there's kind of two different significant meanings to the phrase or the word in the way we use it. One is happiness in terms of, as we were saying, getting wealth, getting things that gives us pleasure. So the key thing is more like pleasure. And the words in Punjabi, we talk about khushi, hasna rona, sukh dukh. Sukh dukh is a broader term that covers both, but this form of external happiness, we use in English, we use words besides happiness like pleasure, excitement versus disappointment. They're externally oriented, and this is the kind of sukh dukh that Gurdwara tells us to get beyond that, not get caught up in this kind of sukh dukh. But there's a deeper kind of happiness is what we are really after, that we should aim for, which is true happiness, which is constant. It is deeper. It's a state of spiritual state, a mental state, more than an externally driven thing. And the words used in Gurdwara are words like anand, sahaj, vikas, like blooming of flowers, comes many times in Gurdwara. Phool chao, Chardi Kalaa. Chardi Kalaa is not in Gurdwara, but you know it's a Sikhi word now. We know what it means. Chao baya, delight, chao. Punjabi the words kar rahe hain. Gurdwara jande ne jede. Man chao baya prabhagam sunaya. You know, it's a form of joy. I was looking at some of the Gurdwara words that refer to this kind of deeper happiness. And in English we use words like bliss, peace, blossoming forth, and joy. Back to Gurdwara, in addition to bloom, the word haryaval comes in many places. Harya, man harya. There's a word man harya khidya bag. There's a shabad, beautiful shabad, man harya khidya bag. That's the state of mind we want, you know, like a garden that's in bloom. So that's a constant uplifting, positive kind of spirit, Chardi Kalaa, that all comes together. So that's the real happiness, and not what we normally chase after. The first kind of superficial happiness, which is more things that trigger the pleasure in the mind, the brain. You know, there's these chemicals in the brain, serotonin and others, that come in when it comes during sex, comes during you get something, you know, things that make you excited or happy. They're all chemically driven in the brain. But those are the kind of externally driven pleasure things. And there's this deeper bliss and joy and constant state of upliftment is what the real happiness is. And that's what Gurdwara tries to show you how to get.
I have a question.
Hanji.
Does our DNA determine whether we are happy or not? Are
It contributes.
some people
I'm sure it does.
more inclined to be happy people, and others because of the chemistry of the brain? Or
I'm sure that's part of it, yes. Yeah, but I'm sure that's a big part of it. But then there are external things, right? Being in Satsangat, learning from Gurdwara, learning things can have a big effect. It's always a combination of your DNA and the environment.
And that's where the plasticity comes in, right?
Yeah, that's where you know spiritual growth has its own impact, and the idea is to be able to transcend some of our ingrown limitations. There's DNA, there's our karma, there's so many aspects to that. You know, things that we are given, and then there's what we can achieve. It's also through grace that we can achieve, but also through our own efforts and through the Guru and the Sangat, we can achieve something that helps us to transcend our DNA and our karma. So this deeper kind of Sahaj, Anand, Chardi Kalaa is the happiness we're really talking about, that we aspire to achieve. Hanji?
Bani, a lot of time come Rangya.
Yeah, Rang is, it can mean love. It can mean an environment, an impact. It can also means the uplifted state.
It means what?
Joy.
Lastly,
An uplifted state, kind of. I'm still looking for words, but
It's like for me.
so Gurbani tells us to learn how to treat happiness and sorrow the same, and there we are talking about the first kind, sukh, dukh, good things happening, bad things happen, fortune, misfortune. It tells us to transcend those, not to be impacted too much by that. And it comes everywhere in Gurbani. The ideal is to dukh sukh sam kar jana, dukh sukh toge langna. As Shukhayasi sukh dukh tono sam kar jane aur man apmana. Harak sokh te rahe atita, te jag tat pachana. Harak sog is again things that make us happy, things that makes us sad. One who can float above these things. It's not that you're not going to be happy, but if you can stay a little bit above so that these things don't impact you as much, and you are in tune with your more positive aspects, gratitude, things like that. Remembering that what Vaheguru is doing is always right. Tum karo bhala hum bhalo na jane, tum sada sada dayala. So even when things don't go our way, we can still keep in mind, still keep in tune with Vaheguru, with Hukam. That's what the Samkar Jana, and that's Harak Sokte Rahe Atita comes from that. And all of these good and bad things all come from Vaheguru. As Guruji says in Japji Sahib, even when the worst things happen, he can still say, Ketya dukh bhuk sadmar e bhi daat teri daatar. Even the negative things are all part of his gift, and there's a stage at which you can try to see that. It's very hard. I'm not going to say that I can do that, but that's what one aspires to do. Aspires to get to that stage where you can see everything as a gift.
There's no choice.
Yeah, Hukam, you don't have any choice about Hukam, right? It's there. The question is whether we get resentful and say it's terrible, I'm miserable, or you say it's Vaheguru da Hukam hai. You know, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, even when he was being tortured, and he says Tera kiya meetha lage. That's a state we try to achieve.
very hard.
Now we can't all reach that, but we can know that that's where we want to get, to whatever little bit we can get.
That's the biggest bummer, right? When you are not healthy, you're miserable.
Yeah.
No, but also it means you don't have to take it passive.
Of course not. But that's a very important point. You don't have to be passive, but at the same time, there's a very, very beautiful old prayer, and the versions of it from the Christian world that says something about
Serenity prayer.
Serenity Valley prayer. Give me the serenity, Lord, to accept the things I can't change, to work and change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Maybe you remember the exact
That's
words.
the one. You said it right.
I don't know if I said it right, but that's the concept.
Psychological issue.
To change.
Well, it's a spiritual state where you can do that. It's a way of looking at things.
If you don't accept whatever is happening, then you have a big psychological problem in addition.
And if you don't try to do things either, then you get passive, and that's fatalism is not good either, right? You don't want to say I can't do anything, sorry, you give up. Yeah.
Saram and Uddham are very key.
Yeah. Ketya duk bhugzadma evidat teri datar. It's a beautiful line. We have to remember it at all times when things don't go well. So we talk about some things about how do we actually achieve the second state that we talked about, the real deeper happiness. So the most basic thing Gurbani tells us is Naam Simran. And Naam Simran itself is a very broad subject, but it's being in tune with Vaheguru. It's always thinking of him, remembering him. Leads to a state of equipoise and Chardi, Kalaa, transcending pleasure and pain. So this is what helps us to get beyond the short-term effect of pleasure and pain if we are in an elevated spiritual state. Now we all get tossed up and down, but this helps us to deal with that. And there are many, again, Gurbani is full of things that tell you how Naam Simran goes with the real Sukh. But just to take one example, Kabir Har Ka Simran, Jo Kare So Sukhiya Sansar. This is how you can be happy in this world, is through Naam Simran. Utut kade na dovale jis rakhe sirjanhar. Itut kade na dole jis rakhe sirjanhar. So again, this is the way to not be affected by ups and downs, is through Naam Simran. And here's the thing I sketched out that kind of talks about what Naam Simran does for you. So the horizontal axis is going from the state of a manmukh to one of a gurmukh, and the vertical is your happiness level. And you go from the left to the right through Naam Simran. That's what Gurbani tells you. So most of us start off in the bottom left corner, where we are always going up and down. Now for any engineers here, this looks like a sine wave. Actually, it's not a sine wave, of course. It will be more noisy, random. But just to make it clear, I drew it like a sine wave. And what it shows is that, we are up and down and we never quite reach the highest levels. We are more likely to be down in despair when we start. And as we practice Naam Simran, we start moving to the right. So our average happiness level goes up. We are feeling more positive, more in Chardi Kalaa. We still go up and down, but the oscillations get less. Our depths don't go as far down. We can snap back. We can say, oh, it's not so bad. It's Guru da Hukam hai, I'm going to keep plugging on.
Just the very
And you recover
exercise,
sooner.
right? Of sitting down, closing your eyes, slowing down your breath.
So you can recover.
Chanting the mantra, right? It slows down. When the breath slows down, the mind slows down. Right? The mind's activity, the noise level.
But when something bugs us, when something goes really wrong, at that time it's very hard to even do Naam Simran. But if you have been doing it, then if you have been doing it as a practice, then when something bad happens, you can snap back it a little more easily, quicker. It won't take you as far down and you won't be as upset about it.
The thing is, if one is upset, right, and agitated or whatever, and sometimes you don't even have to have a Babaji's room. Let's suppose you have
Sure.
an office, right? You just go there.
Right.
If it's a queue, then you're exposed to everyone. If you have an office, close the door. And just sitting down and taking a deep breath, and even a few moments of doing that, the emotions are so temporary that what you're feeling now, you're going to feel your response to whatever's happening is going to be vastly different at the end of the day, the following day. If you give it 24 hours, you'll be amazed at how that agitation has simmered down immensely. And that
But
time,
if besides giving time, if you also practice Naam
I was
Simran,
going to say that time can be shrunk
exactly.
hugely by the practice of sitting down, breathing, and doing your mantra or whatever it is. And I think there is definitely a physiological aspect to it. Which
Absolutely.
is that as the body gets calmer and the breath slows down, the mind slows down, and there's clarity.
But it's more than breathing or slowing down, it's the spiritual aspect
It's
of
the
it. It's being in
spiritual
tune with
aspect of
Vaheguru. It's the internal. There's a divine within us.
There's the connection. That connection doesn't happen when there is noise. So you have to find the time to
Sure.
be on your own and to have that practice of separating yourself from the noise. I think
That's all very true, but it's the Gurbani and the Naam that's the essence of it. The separation, the mechanics are far less important than the Guru, than the Gurmat.
What I'm saying is when you breathe, when you do like our mantra is Vaheguru, right? When you breathe in Vahe and you breathe out Guru, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever mantra you're doing, that really is very effective. At least for me, it has been very effective.
Again, Naam Simran is a very broad term and there are many components to it.
Yeah,
And what you are
there's
describing is one of them.
One part of it.
But all of it is important. All of Gurdwara, all of Naam Simran, which includes
I'm sharing
Gurbani.
this as a tool.
Hanji.
Is there
Sure.
not something like a quiet Naam Simran? It doesn't have to be noise.
What I'm sharing is one tool that
Sure.
that I
Okay. Okay.
Fundamental point.
But we don't want to spend all our time talking about.
Naam Simran doesn't have to be repetition of Vaheguru all the time.
No.
Right.
Multiple definition of
Yeah.
Naam.
No,
So,
therefore,
Kirtan,
Absolutely.
chanting,
It can also be simple quietness.
Yeah. Or listening to Kirtan.
Yeah, and
with Sangha.
ability
Right.
to control your mind and nervous system. One there is a new book that I was reading. It's just a newfangled thing, and I will not go deep into it because that's not the topic. There's some book called. It's written by 4 neuroscientists, 3 neuroscientists. It's amazing, and the best thing about it is the prose is wonderful. This is not
What's the name of the book?
the general theory of love. It's an amazing. somebody
Nice name.
to it, and I read all of it. And the most interesting thing I got out of it was that when you are tutoring somebody or trying to persuade somebody, fundamentally you are asking the nervous system of that person. right?
General theory of love.
The general theory of love. And the word they use for this is something called limbic resonance.
Yes, I heard.
Right? Limbic is the emotional mid part of the brain, which is emotion involved in emotions. And he says, if you, and that is my understanding, I don't know these things, but my thought was that in the ancient Indian systems, and particularly in Sikhi also, when they say Guru's grace, right, it may be something similar that the Guru's nervous system is affecting the nervous system of the person who is hearing. Because sometimes you say, Darshan karan da bada maza aaya ji. You know, the Guru may not have said anything at all. The
presence.
The presence. Right? So there is, and I think this it has gotten some, it's not only by these guys, this thing, something called limbic resonance, it has gotten
I've heard of it.
general acceptance it has gotten, and there is some kind of history of at least about 30, 40 years. Right? So it's, I think there can also, I'm sure there must be a Nam Simran which is quietness and anything else.
Sure. That's the quiet contemplation is a key part of it. But it's
the part that you described, or that is basically that one.
It's tuning.
Yeah, you said, hey,
tuning.
you sit down and calm your nervous system.
You tune in. You tune in.
Yeah. And
Well, somebody said earlier that Nam Simran has many dimensions to it, many components, but the key part of it,
all the chatter in your head.
Quietness.
yeah, so Nam Simran has many components to it, many tools, let me say, or many techniques. It includes just doing part, Sahaj part, Gurbani, listening to it, listening to Kirtan, practicing Vaheguru. But the ultimate stage that's described in Gurbani many times is quiet contemplation, where they describe the internal state of joy and bliss. And that is a internal quiet contemplation, but it's built on top of all the other things. You listen to, the word Vaheguru is only meaningful if you're doing part and listening to Kirtan, otherwise it's just a word, right? But if you have a concept that comes from there.
On the diagram that you do, it seems to imply that once you have reached spiritual growth, you can never come down fast.
No, it says that you manage to stay in an elevated state of joy and bliss, constant bliss. That doesn't mean individual things won't give you pleasure, or that doesn't mean you're not living, but it means you don't get despaired. You don't come down from that state. Nothing brings you down. Ultimately, you can stay up there.
The oscillations remain. Nothing is.
But the oscillations will be very small. They won't bring you down very far. You'll still stay up there.
No,
That's the idea. That's the
You
concept.
can go up and down, right? And the moment.
Well, I'm in the right corner. I'm thinking of somebody like one of the gurus. Somebody like that. We are thinking the ultimate level, not you and me. This is the aspiration, right? So do you think Guru Nanak Dev Ji ever got once he was at that stage?
But I'm talking about
That's what
the
we tried.
progression of it for us
Yeah.
normal people, right? It's ups and
Of
downs.
course. We'll be in the middle somewhere, but the whole point is that it goes down.
The average person is somewhere towards
It's well, hopefully a little bit more. Hopefully we are somewhere between the left and the right ends, right? But as much to the right as possible and as high there as possible. And that's our goal of our life, according to Gurbani, is to practice Nam Simran and achieve spiritual growth. This is as you have spiritual growth through Nam Simran, you are able to handle the negative things of life better, and you can stay in an elevated Chardi Kala state more and more. That's all I'm trying to show here. You can't take a curve literally, it's just a concept, okay? And it's not going to be a sine wave, right? It's going to be more a noisy thing, but the noise amplitude will go down a little bit. Okay? So that was one core fundamental strategy of getting into Chardi Kala and bliss is Nam Simran. Now the others are kind of come from that, but there are other aspects of it that we can specifically look at. The other one is leaning on Vaheguru, dependence, Sharan Icharna. And praying to Vaheguru, Sharan Icharna, it's knowing that we have somebody we can depend on when something goes wrong. That's an important component of dealing with misfortune. Of, again, changing our attitude to life because we are depending on Vaheguru. And there's a beautiful Shabad that kind of brings that out. Uthat sukhiya, baitat sukhiya, bhavni lage ja aise bujhiya, rakha ek hamara swami. So by having that dependence, saying somebody I can depend on, he's going to take care of me. It's that whole attitude, I can come to Vaheguru, I can pray to him. उठत सुखिया बैठत सुखिया भवनी लागे जाए से दुखिया राखा एक हमारा स्वामी सगल घटा का अंतर्जामी because he knows everything and he can take care of it for me. घर सुख वस्या बाहर सुख पाया कहो नानक गुरमंत्र दिराया विजय. Something about sleeping and awake also in there. So it is sharan, it is prayer. जी की something होए so हर पे अरदास कर. If something goes wrong, ask Waheguru.
Which research also shows, just adding to what you said, that people of faith, people who do believe in a higher power, tend to be happier people. I want to share the story of a friend of mine who was diagnosed with suddenly one day from being perfectly healthy, the next day having a stomach ache, going to the doctor and finding out that she's in the 4th stage of bile duct cancer.
It can happen to any day. I can discover that tomorrow I'm going to die because the doctor has just found something, right?
She is a Christian and her faith is so strong that she is an inspiration to everyone who knows her. She is going through palliative chemo. She knows that there is no cure, but you have to see her to see how much Chardi Kalaa she's in. And she says, death is not a bad thing. It's not such a bad thing. If that is in God's plan for me, so be it. Every moment that I live, I want to live in gratitude. It is so beautiful to see what faith can, the strength that faith in a higher power, in knowing that God has a plan for you, what it can do to you in the direst of circumstances.
You know what it is called? Tina.
Tina.
Tina. T-I-N-A.
Who's that?
It stands for
An acronym.
there is no alternative.
Oh, that's different. That's giving up. That's saying I have no choice.
No,
Prayer and dependence is something else.
This is faith. This is true faith.
no, I didn't invent the acronym. It's called Tina. T-I-N-A. There is no alternative.
No, the alternative could be despondence, could be...
No. I used to, the thing you said was very beautiful. I was wondering.
It's so lovely just to see her.
As far as facing death, you mentioned that. There's a beautiful lines in Kirtan Sohila we read all the time, but we just kind of run through them without stopping to think. Sambat saha likhya mirkal pao tel, deo sajan azisiyan jo hove sahib so mel. That's how a Gurmukh looks at death. It's an opportunity. I'm going to go meet my beloved. He's saying it's a celebration. It's a very hard thing to do, but that's what Gurbani tells us.
No Gurmukh looks towards death.
But he's willing to accept it joyfully.
Well, yeah.
जिस मरने ते जग में डरे मेरे मन आनंद मरने ही ते पाइए पूर्ण परमानंद.
So which is this line from Sohila? Kyo sajan asisriya jo hove sahib so mel, right? It's a very beautiful, it's a positive line. It's a line
Yeah.
of union.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. That's the point.
Yeah, and I think it's for the living,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
for the dead, right? It's like as you live,
No, it's talking about achieving that final state. Samba Saha Likhya, the time is, there's a time when I'm going to meet Waheguru.
Right. So it's almost like the day of the wedding is set.
Right.
And sing these songs.
Yeah, that can happen. You can be a Jivan Mukhat or you can get it after death. That's not relevant. The point
what
is,
I'm saying is that this reminds you how to live. Devo Sajan Asisuriya. Give me your blessings so that the way I live, I may be united with my Creator.
sure. Yeah, you like any Gurbani, you can interpret it more than one ways. So the other thing these are all related. We've alluded to this already actually in some of the conversation here is recognizing hukam. Again, this is a way of dealing with the down parts of the cycle, is recognizing everything is in Vaheguru's hukam and live in it cheerfully. Tiska hukam buj sukh hoye. You can actually get sukh out of recognizing. If you recognize his hukam all the time, that is a path towards the real sukh also.
Is there any line in the Gurbani which talks about whether the hukum is just or not?
Yeah, there are many things that says God is just in his ways.
No.
His justice is perfect.
Are there any lines in the Gurbani which talk about hukum that is unjust?
No.
No, I mean, I have recently accepted hukum, but I accepted it with the proviso. Number one is that there is no alternative. Something has occurred, I don't have a choice. That doesn't mean that I have to accept it even, except in the sense I'm not passive about it. I cannot alter it, right? But in real life, if somebody attacks you, it's hard to tell whether the thing that has occurred is Vaheguru's hukam, Vaheguru's will, or is it caused by somebody else? Holy sir. If there is hukam, you have to somehow find out what was the hukam, right? And
Gurbani does say hukam is agam agochar.
No.
You can never fully understand
My
it.
understanding is-
And at one level, let me finish. At one level, nothing is outside God, right? We're all part of Vaheguru. Even if it's the other guy who attacked you, he's also part of Vaheguru. You're also part of Vaheguru. Everything has happened. The laws of physics under which, and the laws of genetics for the DNA of the two of you is also part of Vaheguru's hukam.
But
The
my-
physical laws that make it happen is also part of Vaheguru.
But my volition, what I think and what I plan to do.
But you are part of Vaheguru. You are also part of Vaheguru, and you're given all that from Vaheguru also.
I will try
Right?
to do it,
Yeah.
right? And what we're talking about is once the hukam has occurred, do I question whether the hukam is fair or not, right?
You can question it, it won't change it. We can always question it.
So,
Yeah.
but you know, the only curious whether there is, I mean, you can have your own judgment, and all of us make some kind of
Sure.
judgment, and you can say, oh, this is not fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens, you know.
And then you have a psychological problem because if you accept it, then you can do something about it if you want to do, right?
Good point.
But if you don't accept it, then you have a psychological problem.
Then you
because
get your-
you're
then you-
fighting with something which is not changed.
Then you fill your heart with resentment and negativity, which you don't want.
Right.
That's the point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So part of hukam is accept gracefully all that happens, both good and bad, as is hukam. Jo tud bhave sai bhali kar, to sada salamat nirankar. And but the important thing is, you know, we shouldn't think of God. Sometimes you only think of Vaheguru when something goes wrong. Then we say, let's prashad kariye, jaake Gurdwara ch ardas karo sare ji theek ho jaye. You know, something is going wrong, we have to play to Vaheguru. So we think of him in a way. I think somebody gave this example at one of the Vichaar sessions, and might have been you or someone else, who said, don't think of Vaheguru as a spare tire. When something goes wrong, you have a flat, then you pull it out, right? Instead, think of it more like the steering wheel. Think of him always there. He's the one who's guiding you.
That young boy.
Whoever did it, I like that example. God isn't a spare tire, he's a steering wheel. He's our main thing. That's, you know, we have to think of him all the time. Think of him when things go bad, think of him when things go good. When something goes bad, you pray to him. Something happens good, you thank him. But always remember, it's his hukam. Everything is in his hukam. He's the steering wheel of our life. Okay. Then here is, I think, one of the most important ones. Strategy towards happiness is gratitude. Is seeing all our blessings and recognizing them. Because we always have so many blessings. And don't think of him again when things go bad, but also think of him when every time something goes well, also thank him. Je sukh deta tujhe aradi, dukh bhi tujhe dhyai. Every time we should remember him. And gratitude makes us, most of us get unhappy because we think we don't have something other people have. We compare ourselves with those, with people who have more than us in various ways, you know.
Their wife.
Whether it's wealth, their wives, exactly. Somebody is lucky in love, and some people are unlucky in love. Somebody has a more beautiful wife or a better husband who earns more money. But you know, the millionaires. Somebody like Larry Ellison has a big, huge house, but he says somebody else has something much bigger, so he's unhappy because he doesn't have the biggest house in the world. He's maybe the second or third biggest only. So you can always find something someone else has that you don't have, but instead. Most of us are so lucky, there are so many people who have less than us. And if we recognize our blessings and compare ourselves to those who don't have them, then we always have a reason to thank Vaheguru. Because we take all the good things for granted. We only look at the things we don't have. And just stop to count all our blessings and thank Vaheguru itself is one of the most important strategies for being happy. And we see that in our families. When I look at the elders in our families, my grandparents, parents, others, some of them just always say, Vaheguru, tera shukar hai. Anything happens. Shukar hai, Vaheguru. They see something beautiful and they say, oh, come out, look at what a beautiful day, Vaheguru, tera shukar hai. See a little baby, Satke Jama, Vari Jama, Vaheguru, tera shukar hai. What a beautiful, nice baby. So think of things that make them happy and they thank Vaheguru.
I want to share a story about gratitude. I've shared it in one of my TV segments, but I want to share it. Somehow it just stayed, and this thing happened like 15, 16 years ago, but it has remained completely etched in my memory. So Anand was about 9 years old, and we went to India. It was in November, December. And just before going to India, we bought him a pair of shoes whose heels lit up when he walked. They were very trendy at the time. You know, little boys wore shoes, when they walked, the heels would light up. So he really wanted those shoes, and before we went to India, we bought him a pair of those shoes. So we were going to, Papa was with us, and we were going to a restaurant to have dinner. And there was this little Sikh boy, he was selling newspapers, and I bought an evening newspaper from him, and we noticed that he did not have any shoes. Now, Anhad had never seen a little boy on a cold November evening, December evening, without any shoes. So the whole time we were having dinner, he kept saying, Mom, that boy didn't have any shoes. I'm like, yeah, bete. And you know, when you grow up in India and you see so much poverty, sometimes you get a little desensitized, right?
Yeah.
So, but this kid had never, so he kept saying he doesn't have any shoes. And then he says suddenly, Mom, do you think I could give him my shoes? Will he take them? So I said, Beta, that's very
blessed.
sweet of you. That's a lovely thought. But, and absolutely, you can give him those shoes. But don't ask for them to buy new ones right now because they may not be available in India. So he says, okay, but I want to give him those shoes. So after dinner, we go looking for that kid. He has moved, and we walk down and we find him, you know, a block away at another traffic light, still selling newspapers. So Anand is really happy, and he offers him his shoes. So this kid looks at Anand like, why would I want your shoes? He says, I don't want them. So I'm like, why not? He goes, no, I don't want them. Really surprised. Why don't you want any shoes? He goes, he looks at them again. He goes, yeah, they're really nice. But I have a little brother at home, and I cannot go home wearing these shoes when he doesn't have any. I don't want your shoes because I don't want to be the only one in the family who has shoes. So then we offer him some money, and he says, I'm not a beggar. I don't want any money from you either. So we're like, what can we do?
This little kid has
a sick boy,
he has some principles, yeah.
So then I said, can we do anything for you? Can we help you in any way? He goes, yeah. Like,
buy some things
buy
from
all
me.
my
Yeah.
newspapers. So he had like 100 newspapers or whatever. So we bought them. We bought all his newspapers, and he skipped away. And he was, as he was going, he turned back and he said, "मैं बहुत तेज दौड़ना
But you can't catch
really
it.
fast." And I'm like, wow. He says, I have strong legs and feet. And then he said, I'm really grateful for them because his father had polio. He said, my father has polio and he cannot.
See, this guy understands how to be happy. He understands the very principles we are talking about on gratitude.
Gratitude for having a fit body. He says, मैं तेज दौड़ना, मेरा पैर लगना बढ़िया strong है. So how many of us thank God every day for having the body that's strong?
And there's so many things we can be thankful for. We all have so many blessings we don't even realize.
So many blessings.
Even when nothing specific is happening, there are so many things if we look around in our lives that we take for granted that we can be thankful for. And I saw this slide on the web the other day. It just says, oh, there are so many things to be grateful for.
Beautiful.
There's no end to that.
But you can also be less verbose and say...
Well, gratitude is not verbosity, it's just a state of mind.
I meant it. I said you can do gratitude without saying, being thankful to God. Just be thankful.
Whatever. Yeah. They're closely related. I mean, the sense of gratitude. You can come out in the morning and say, what a beautiful day, thank you, this is beautiful. Now, one of the things I try to do, though I don't always remember to do it, is to think before going to sleep of all the things, beautiful things during the day that we can be thankful for. And when we get up in the morning, thank you, Vaheguru, for a nice new day. I think then the whole day goes nicer when I remember to do that at the two ends of it. Okay, yet another component to a state of Chardi Kalaa, real true happiness, is forgiveness. It's letting go of grudges, of anger. Because that's the big obstacle we put to our own happiness when we carry something against someone. As long as there's anger, hurt, or a grudge against anyone, we cannot be at peace with ourselves. Nam Simran doesn't work. You sit down to Nam Simran, your mind runs off because you're mad at somebody or somebody hurt you. You're only hurting yourself in body, mind, and spirit. And there's a very nice analogy I heard once. When you hold a grudge against somebody, it's like you're giving rent-free a room in your house to somebody in your brain. Within the house, within your own house, yourself, You're taking part of it, your brain, and you're saying, here, you can come stay in it. Somebody that you don't like who's done something mean to you. You're allowing him a place in your mind where you should not. And again, there are lots of beautiful shabads on this concept. Par ka bura na rakho cheet, tumko dukh nahi bhai meet. It's ourselves that we are hurting when we do
Forgiveness has
anything.
been equated to a jewel.
It's also
Namaskar.
it's equated to God Himself. Jahan khimat hai aap.
जहाँ क्षमा है आप।
God Himself is there with His forgiveness. एक फरीद जी का शब्द है फरीद बुरे दा भला कर गुस्सा मन ना हंडाए देही रोग ना लग गई पल्ले सब कुछ पाए. Your own body is going to be diseased if its anger actually hurts your body and your mind. It's not an easy one. Most of us find things to be mad at somebody or the other. Somebody disappointed you, somebody has crossed you somewhere.
I think the related concept is that being non-judgmental.
Yeah, they're all related. Yeah.
That if you
But this is a more personal aspect of that, This is a personal effect when you carry grudges.
non-judgment is an attitude, and
Oh, that's a very core part of Sikhi is being non-judgmental.
what is the line about that? Line is
There are many lines that say that nobody is good, nobody is bad, they're all doing what God's made them do. There are many things like that.
where because being non-judgment, a lot of other things follow from it. And I was looking for a line which talks about being non-judgmental. I mean, there are lines which talk about
We don't have Jagmohan here, he comes up with the Gurbani, things like that. But there are so many ones that talk about your good and bad is all Waheguru is doing, na koi murak, na ko syana, there are other lines like that. Tiska bhana. And there are many others like that that talk about.
There is another small aspect. Some trust in yourself. There is trust, I mean, the body is trust in God or prayer, right? And in Sikhi there is also the ability to do things, to achieve things. And that requires a certain amount of that trust in your ability to do the stuff. There must be some line which talks about that we can develop the equipoise, we can develop the ability to make good decisions and build some trust in our own judgment.
Well, the Guru showed us a lot in their lives.
Yeah.
They talked about hukam, they talked about acceptance, but they were very active. They were doing things all the time. They were leading the community. They were taking initiative.
That is looking.
And that's become a part of the Sikh ethos. Right? Sikhs are entrepreneurs. They work hard.
Is there a line there?
I can't think of it now, but they.
But which you were quoting, Tera Kiya Vichaar, right?
That was in acceptance.
That's really acceptance, forgiveness.
That's hukam and acceptance.
Chardi Kalaa in the toughest of circumstances when your body is being tortured, right? That example is there.
By the way, on gratitude, talking about lines on gratitude, there are some great examples from Guru Arjan Dev Ji where he's thanking Waheguru when Hargobind had smallpox and he recovered. And there are so many Shabads thanking Waheguru for protecting his son.
And then Guru Gobind Singh.
Hargobind Nama Nirwa Kiya Gaya Shabad.
Yeah.
And there are several Shabads like that. He thanks Waheguru for preserving his son. Then there's Sulhi Te Narayan Rakh, he protected me from Sulhi. And there's so many, there are about 6 or 7 Shabads that are entirely about gratitude where he is thanking Waheguru. So he's from his own life and he thinks, he showed us how to thank Waheguru for all these things.
For protection. I think you're right, absolutely, that in the life of the Gurus, there's so many examples where you don't get bent out of shape. Guru Gobind Singh's Zafarnama to Aurangzeb, where he started a dialogue with someone, as tyrannical and bigoted, and say, let's sit down and talk, and let me tell you where you went wrong, right? And those are beautiful examples. And I also get inspiration from when Jesus was crucified. He said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. That's a beautiful line too, from another tradition.
Yeah. Another very important one, I think you alluded to earlier also, is happiness comes from doing things for other people and from doing seva.
You also mentioned patience, Saj.
Yeah.
Right?
But just to stay with this one, since we are on this slide, let's focus on one thing at a time.
Is there, okay, so we have more lines?
Yeah. So talking about seva and giving, let's finish this, then we can come to that of patience also. So there was actually a study where they looked at different people in different professions, do different things in their lives, and then their level of personal happiness. And they find that some of the happiest people were people who worked for NGOs, who are out there doing like the Peace Corps and volunteers, and caregivers also, people who are nurses and in that profession. That caregivers, people who are doing things for other people, are among the happiest in the world. While people who are doing things for themselves, trying to be successful and get richer, and don't have that level of satisfaction. Now it only works if you're doing it voluntarily and it's a selfless service because you want to do it. When people are forced to do it, then actually they're unhappy. You know, people who have to take care of relatives but they're forced to do it, sometimes they can have resentment also. But those who willingly do things for their mothers, for their parents, for their children, they're actually among the happiest in the world, who like to just take care of other people.
And to comfort someone.
To comfort
when
someone,
they're
to do
hurting, when
things.
they're
Yeah.
aching. Such a big joy. It gives you so much gratitude that you're able to do it.
So there's more happiness to come from giving than there is from receiving. And selfless seva can be far more satisfying. And Guruji says, Brahm Gyani Parupkaro Maha. So doing things for other people is always something of joy. So that's what I had mainly about happiness. I also have, how much time do we have? Yeah. So the Gurbani also tells us in talking about happiness and suffering that not only are both part of life, but that suffering actually has a purpose. And it can actually be good for us. Dukh daru sukh rog bhaya. What does that mean? How can sorrow be something good? So I just wanted to spend a few minutes on that. So we only want sukh all the time and to avoid dukhs, but Gurbani tells us that it can be bad. So how can it be? So looking at some of the downsides of what we consider of happiness or good fortune, what can it do for us, to us? And one is when good things happen, we think we made them happen. So good things in life can actually feed our home. It makes us feel more proud. If we get promoted in our job, we think, oh, we are smarter than the other guys. If we make more money, we think, we must be smart, it's our right, and the other guys are the poor people, it's their fault, they don't have the initiative, and so on. So it leads to Om, and Gurbani tells us, Home Navin Nal Virodha Doina Vasek Thai. So it's a big obstacle to our own spiritual progress if we get lost in good things. If we let good things that make us happy, if we get all absorbed in that, it can actually take us away from Vaheguru. It can be a big distraction. Wealth can be a distraction. And you see that also in the religious sphere itself. Those are religious leaders. Those are successful. You achieve some success spiritually, and then you start to become arrogant. And that's something you have to watch out for. If you wake up early in the morning, Amrit Vela, and do Nam Simran, you feel, well, I'm a better spiritual person than the other guy. I can be judgmental and make comments like that. And we see that in some people.
Arrogance is just as bad as any other.
Exactly. So it can be, Kabir Sabda Shabad aega, Kabir Sikh Sakha Bote Kiye Keso Kyo Namit, Chale The Har Simran Ko Biche Atkyo Cheat. So that can happen too in spiritual goodness. I've said downside to happiness, it's downside to what we think of as blessings, to good fortune. The other thing is, when we get something, we want more, and we get greedy. It's harder, and that's why things don't keep us happy for long, because what we think gives us happy, if it's this kind of happiness that comes from things, or from external events, then we get inured to that and we want more and more. So it only makes us want more. Instead of being satisfied, we get more greedy. So that can happen also, so we have to watch out for that. The other thing is, when external things, we count our happiness in terms of belongings or success or things like that, we always see others who have more. If money makes us happier, then there are always people who have more money. So having money can make us envious of those who are richer than us also, if we get tied up in that. And same with other aspects of good fortune. It also gets us more entangled in the world. The more you have of things, the more complicated life gets. If you have more money, you have to invest it. You have to spend time doing that. It's not growing fast enough. What am I doing with all that money in the bank, right? You can lose it. You can have to pay taxes on it. People get mad at having to pay taxes. But having to pay taxes, you should be very happy. If you didn't have a lot of money, you would not be in a high tax bracket. Instead, people get all mad and worked up. The government's taking away all my money. What's this for? I earned it fair and square, right? So then you have to protect it. You have a house, big house, very nice house. Now you have to put an alarm system in it. You have to get a chowkidar if you're in India. Something can go wrong, and so on. So
Is paying tax a seva? Directly, indirectly?
in a way, it depends on your attitude. It is. I think it's a good thing to do. I think we are contributing to others, doing our share to society. I think we should be happy to pay taxes, but we can be smart enough to pay only as much as we need to. That's why you go to a tax attorney also. That's okay too. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. There's a thing like it goes to the doormat of the society.
If we vote for people who we know they'll increase taxes, but they're also going to do some good things with it, then I guess it's a seva.
Voting for socialism or
Well, there's so many aspects of those arguments. We can't get into that here. But conceptually, we are in it together as a country, as any society, and we have to contribute our part. So in that sense, taxing is seva, paying taxes. But on the other hand, if you have corrupt politicians who are using your taxes for the wrong reasons, or if there's too high a taxation rate, then it's bad for the economy for various reasons. So you can get into all these debates. So the other thing, of course, is, as I mentioned earlier, you can get diverted from the spiritual path because you get too entangled in it. So what all these things say is that those of us who are blessed in various ways, whether it's money, whether it's wealth, whether it's success, whether it's a happy family, whatever things make us happy, the more God blesses us with things, the more we have to inoculate ourselves from the down aspects. So the more God blesses you, the more you need Naam Simran and Path and Gurbani. Whereas the richer you are, the more you need spirituality to protect yourself from the bad effects of riches. So that's why gratitude is so important too. When we get something, if we think of Vaheguru and thank Him, then we can save ourselves from some of the negative effects of those same blessings. You have to, Punjabi Gurbani chanda something about jarna, all the blessings nu jarna penda, we have to handle them. We have to handle them without being diverted from Gurbani's path. You heard things like, don't wish for it because you might actually get it. And that's true with all these external blessings. They come with downsides. And you ask for it and you get it, and then it may hurt you more than helping you. Gurbani chahta na bint dhorje mangna sir dukhan ke dukh. That doesn't mean you shouldn't ask for anything, but if you get something without Vaheguru, without that part, without the spiritual part, then it's going to give you more unhappiness rather than happiness. Bint dhorje mangna. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard to make money, but if your main desire is for money, it may, instead of happiness, it may give you more unhappiness. So you have to inoculate yourself from God's blessings too by thanking Him and by praying to Him and doing Naam Simran. So it can be the things you're asking for can be a double-edged sword if you don't handle them the right way. What do you think? Yeah? So what I'm saying on this slide is that it doesn't mean you should seek suffering, and many religious paths people actually do that, through giving up things, going in the jungles, giving up life, or being celibate, or actually hurting yourself. In many traditions, people actually whip themselves or things like that. We don't have to do that. Right.
The most common is blaming God.
Yeah.
It's always that.
Yeah. Bad things do happen, and the point is not to let them take us away from this path also. Feel frustrated or blame God or alienate ourselves from Vaheguru. And so Guruji is showing us a much better way of dealing with ups and downs. He says, in the face of misfortune, think of God and lean on Him. Ye sukh de tujhe aradi, dukh bhi tujhe dhyai. And take your troubles to Him in the form of prayer. Ji ki birtha hoye, so har pe ardas kar. Chhod chanap sagal mantan arap dhar. So that's the way to also deal with the downside of it. And if we put ourselves in Vaheguru's hands and relate to Him as a child, to a parent, then it's his job to take care of us. He'll either, if we take our misfortunes to him, he'll either help us to overcome them, make things fall in place, or he'll give us the strength to deal with them. More of the same. So if we do take our misfortunes to Vaheguru, we reduce our sense of frustration and helplessness, and we leverage off that misfortune, and instead of focusing on anger, we actually become closer to Vaheguru. Because if we give in to anger when something goes wrong, then that has a very destructive effect on our own body, mind and spirit. Bilkul, bilkul, absolutely.
Harsh was in our culture today, it's okay to vent. It's not, because you end up hurting the other person and yourself. And that's why in Gurbani it's a
I don't think it's
Vichaar. Think and reflect and calm down and don't be so reactive all the time.
Yeah, I don't think venting actually necessarily helps you. Now, just holding things in and pretending it didn't happen is something different.
Not right either.
Dealing with it, but just venting is...
It's very important to deal with it, but in a calm manner.
Yeah, I agree. So, if we follow the Gurbani's teachings about the true happiness that we talked about, and you achieve that state of a Gurmukh, then you can achieve constant happiness. And here's a simple shabad that talks about the state of a Gurmukh. Dukh nahi sab sukhi hai re eka eki nete. Because the Guru says, the Gurmukh sees Vaheguru everything, everywhere, in everything. And for him, it's always, you can be in a state of constant happiness, constant positivity. And Guruji says that's what it can be. Bura nahi sab bhalai hai re, har nahi sab jete. And you say, don't see anything bad, you see good in everyone, you see Vaheguru everywhere. We can constantly be uplifted and positive. And har nahi sab jete. So you can have confidence, self-confidence. You can be confident that Vaheguru is with you. Everything will fall in place. Har nahi sab jete. This is kind of speaking to Chardi Kalaa. Dukh nahi sab sukhi hai re, eka eki nete, bura nahi sab bhalai hai re, har nahi sab jete. So that's all I have.
Very, very exhaustive.
One question.
Hanji.
You talk about Anand. There is the Ananta part. Every time, every function, why do we end up with that? It's like Anand aa gaya, or it's like, what does it mean?
I don't know. I don't even know exactly when those traditions fell in place, but it is a beautiful concept to always, because let's end everything in a state of positivity, in a positive mode through Vaheguru, through remembering God, through remembering Naam Simran, and be the Anand of that.
It's very much in line with everything that you've said today, that no matter what is happening, be in gratitude. Someone's born, someone dies, something like that.
Hukam hai,